I'm the treacherous patriot. With the news, they don't want you to know. Juan Guaido, self-proclaimed and U.S.-backed interim president of Venezuela, has failed at yet another coup attempt. The military has remained loyal to the actual president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. Now Guaido is calling on direct intervention from Washington because his regime change attempts have fallen flat on their face. Now this is not an endorsement of the Maduro regime. This is more a critique on U.S. involvement in the situation, and more importantly, a commentary on the failure of our media to inform the public on what's really happening over there. So here it is, 6 things the media is not telling you about Venezuela. Number 1, Venezuela has the largest known oil reserves on the planet. I know what you're thinking. Just because they have oil there does not mean that is the reason that we're intervening. I mean, it's not like any high-ranking U.S. officials have explicitly stated that plays a role in our decision-making.
We're looking at the oil assets. That's the single most important income stream to the government of Venezuela. We're looking at what to do to that. It'll make a big difference to the United States economically if we could have American oil companies really invest in and produce the oil capabilities in Venezuela.
Number 2, the media has repeatedly claimed the Maduro regime is not allowing humanitarian aid into the country.
In Venezuela, the Maduro government has blocked a bridge that connects the country to Colombia as humanitarian aid was just about to arrive. We used a drone to get these images of an orange oil tanker and 2 large blue containers positioned across the 3-lane bridge. It blocks the vital aid from entering, with the Maduro regime saying, "We are not beggars."
Actually, Maduro didn't close that bridge. It's never been open. So to suggest that Maduro closed it to thwart humanitarian aid is pretty dishonest. Also, he is allowing aid into the country from the Red Cross, UN, and various other countries not actively trying to topple his regime. He's just not accepting aid from the US, something the media conveniently failed to mention. They've also failed to mention that both the Red Cross and UN have warned the US not to send aid, basically calling it a PR stunt. Lastly, the media has failed to mention that in the past, the US has used aid as a Trojan horse to smuggle in weapons to militias. In fact, the person Trump named Special Envoy to Venezuela is notorious for this tactic. We'll delve deeper into that further down the list. Number 3, we've heard over and over again about how Maduro is starving his own people.
A criminal regime that is willing to starve and kill its own people before it gives up power.
Yet the 2017 sanctions that the United States has placed on Venezuela has made this crisis much worse.
Sanctions in 2017 that prevented essentially the country from accessing international capital markets and the oil company from restructuring its loans. That put Venezuela into a hyperinflation. That was the utter collapse.
In fact, the report indicates that U.S. sanctions has led to the death of 40,000 Venezuelans.
What is certain, though, staring us in the face, is that there is a humanitarian catastrophe deliberately caused by the United States, by what I would say are illegal sanctions, because they are deliberately trying to bring down a government and trying to create chaos for the purpose of an overthrow.
Number 4, Juan Guaido isn't this homegrown revolutionary trying to liberate his people from a tyrant, as presented by our corporate media. He's been groomed for over a decade by the CIA, first being trained at the Center for Applied Nonviolence Action and Strategies, or CANVAS, which is located in Serbia, and then attending George Washington University in D.C. Guaido was handpicked by the CIA as their puppet, evidenced by the fact he declared himself president after one phone call with Mike Pence. This uprising is about as organic as deep-fried Oreos. Number 5, Elliot Abrams is the special envoy to Venezuela, which basically makes him the point person on this coup that we're running there. Abrams, also known as Voldemort's 8th Horcrux, has backed murderous regimes in El Salvador and Guatemala, helped organize the illegal financing of the Contras, lied to Congress twice about it, was convicted and pardoned by Bush Sr., and was behind our 2002 failed coup attempt on Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. He also famously smuggled weapons to the Contras using humanitarian aid. So yeah, he's a bad hombre. And number 6, the mainstream media is lying. Now, aside from the various lies of omission as highlighted by these points, the media is also spreading patently false information.
Fake news.
Just a few weeks ago, CNN posted an article that states Juan Guaido was elected president of Venezuela in January. Now, I've been a bit preoccupied with Game of Thrones and the NBA playoffs, I'm not going to lie. But when did Juan Guaido get elected president of Venezuela? Oh yeah, he didn't.
Fake news.
He's still just the president of the National Assembly, basically the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi. It took several days for CNN to clear up this mistake. Another error was when major news outlets declared Maduro to be responsible for lighting humanitarian aid ablaze a few weeks back, when there was a standoff at the Colombian border. Alternative journalists on the ground immediately disputed this and were chastised as conspiracy theorists or Maduro sympathizers. CNN journalists even claimed they witnessed Maduro forces do the deed.
Fake news.
3 weeks later, the New York Times published a video proving pro-Guaido protesters were the ones responsible.
This sequence of events shows the fire was most likely started by an errant Molotov, not by Maduro's security forces.
It's mind-boggling that a media machine that is at war with Trump on domestic policy can issue propaganda on behalf of his military agenda so virulent it distorts the truth.